What is up, Evil Dead fans? What this video is going to pertain to is the black piece, the muffler piece for your Ash vs. Evil Dead chainsaw. We're going to do it start to finish. Now, the first thing we're going to work with is a stock muffler piece. As you can see, it's the stock piece. It hasn't been cut. Now, if you want to use this stock piece, you're going to have to cut it in half. Now, you have another option. If you're not secure with cutting that, there is an alternative. You can mold this piece. Now, what I suggest to do, you don't have to go out and buy an expensive molding kit online or anything like that. You can go to Michael's or you can go to Hobby Lobby and you can buy mold putty. Now, mold putty is 2 containers. One's purple and I think the other one's yellow or white, something like that. It's equal parts, you mix together, you knead it together like dough, and you form it around your piece, and it turns into a rubber piece. It cures in about 10 to 20 minutes. Now, when you do it, this is my molded piece. You make sure it's flat. You want it to be flat just because when you pour your resin inside, you don't want it cockeyed. What you do is you get your piece here. You put your mold putty around it. You want to be very quick with it. Definitely read the instructions. Mold it all the way to the top so you have the whole thing. The reason why I say do the whole thing is because you may want to have a full piece at some point. Okay, so let's say you molded your piece, you pull it out. This should pop out. See how it's wider here? It should pop out. If you're doing an Ash vs. Evil Dead one, we know it's cut in half. You need to find your line to stop with your resin. Now, mold putty also makes a 2-part resin you can buy at Hobby Lobby or Michael's, and it's just equal parts again. You mix that together in a different container and you pour it in to whatever fill line, however thick you want it to be. Like I said, you want this to be flat. See how it's flat there? You let it sit for a good 20 minutes, however long, and then you just pop it out, and then you have your piece. And your piece, this is a painted piece. This is what it should look like. Now you can tell it's painted, and on the inside I actually put in the black sand and painted that with a more of a glossy black paint to look like it's wet. But as you can see, it is a full molded piece. That's how thick you want it, and it's nice and flat. If it's not flat, you can always sand it down. If, let's say you put too much resin in there, just sand it down to however thickness you need it to be. Now this is the thickness for Ash vs. Evil Dead. So you have your piece. You can sand down imperfections, fill in imperfections with milliput, things like that, and sand that down flat. One thing you'll have to do is drill your hole here. You can paint it, do whatever you want to it, but you should have your piece. So once you're done with your piece, you're going to want your block. Now, depending on the size of your cuff, if you have a massive cuff, it's going to change the width here of your block. If you have a smaller one, smaller cuff, or a standard cuff size like I use, a 2x4 is perfect. Now, as you can see, there's milliput on there. Now, I only put it on places where you're going to see it, like this edge at a certain point, all the way on the back, any imperfections on the top, or anything like that. So once you cut your piece, the measurements, I have gone over that before in many videos, so look back on the old videos on this piece. So once you cut your piece, you want to sand it down smooth on the edges. The reason why you want to sand it down first is you're going to know all your imperfections in the wood that you need to fill in so you can actually make it look not like wood. So once you know your imperfections, get milliput, which they sell at Hobby Lobby as well. It's a 2-part, like Play-Doh or a clay. You mix it together with your fingers. Dry time is about 4 to 8 hours, 4 to 8 hours, depending on how much you actually use. And this is unsanded. So once it's dry, you sand it flat where you need it to be, especially like, see right here, still a sharp point. You're not going to see that. That's on the inside. But everywhere else, you're going to round off those edges. And before you go this far, you definitely want to take your piece and see if it fits right. Like it's supposed to sit like right there. So it's gonna be like at that angle. You wanna make sure it fits correctly. Okay, so what I do once I'm done with this, and this is completely sanded down, is I spray paint it with a base coat of satin black. The problem is with spray painting, you can still get, even though it's smooth, the wood look. See, I don't have it completely painted. I'll show you why. But notice how it's smooth back here. It's smooth here, but you can still see the wood. You can still see the wood imperfections here, but you'll never see that. The reason why I wanted a base coat is you're gonna hand paint this again to match your paint for this piece. Now you can make it as glossy as possible together. You can actually mold the two pieces together. I've done that in the past. It just depends on the look you wanna go for. This is gonna be a two-part piece versus two pieces molded together. So once you have that dried, what you wanna do is install this piece here. Get the right bolt or screw. It's gonna be kind of a bubbled flathead bolt or screw. You screw it into the wood where you want it to be. You can take it back out so you can paint this separately if you want to, or you can just leave it on there. And when you're done with all the hand painting, you should have this. You will notice how it matches. It doesn't look like wood anymore. And it looks like one piece. Even though it's not molded together, it still looks really, really good. So you go from this to having this. You make this, turns into this, and at the end of it, it turns into that. See the difference in the paint and how much more of a perfect look, much more of a machine look or a factory look of something built versus a block of wood. Now, if you're doing Army of Darkness, you want the wood look because they didn't really do shit. You don't want to actually take out any huge imperfections out of the wood because they didn't care. I mean, they just stuck a block of wood on there, painted it, and called it a day. But really, that's really what you want. You see how you can see the imperfections on this side? You'll never see that. You can see at certain lighting, I'm gonna have to repaint this a little more. You can still see kind of the wood there, but once I repaint it with a second coat, hand painting it with the dab technique I do with a satin black, it's this stuff here, the multi-surface pure black, and it's in satin. Once that's done, it will cover it up. It gives it a nice textured look. And that's really all you do. And then after that, you can put it on a backing piece like I do, so you can have the motor underneath. I can get to that in a later video. But really, it's very simple. The most time you're gonna spend on it is dry time for like the milliput, the paint, and that's really it. When you do install this with your bolt or your screw, one thing you might want to do is put like a gel super glue on the bottom of this piece when you're screwing it down, just so if this ever comes loose, it doesn't want to shift. So that does help, but that's how you do it. That's step by step on how to make it not look like wood, but it looks really, really good. And nice and textured like they had it on the show. If you ever looked at the auction photos, they weren't like a nice glossy black. Oh, excuse me. But you can make it glossy black if you really want to. But yeah, you can put the black sand in there and then do a gloss paint just to make it look like it's wet. Take the mold marks out of it. So that turned out very nice. Very happy with the results. One thing you want to do to remember, last thing you need to remember is when you cut your block of wood, fit it inside your chainsaw, make sure it's properly cut to make sure it fits correctly. So guys, I hope this helped you guys out. It's a really fast video. A nice little step-by-step thing you guys can do to improve on your chainsaws to make it a little more accurate and give it a little more depth versus just doing the plain old backing with this piece like I used to do. You can get a little more detailed and accurate. And the cost of this, if you can find a 2x4 at any construction site, like an old used piece. You can ask somebody for one, they'll give it to you. This is 20 bucks. This big bottle was like 5 bucks. The resin's another 20 bucks. A screw or bolt's like a nickel. If you have any coupons or the app for Michael's or Hobby Lobby, you'll save like a good 40-50%. So really, at the end of the day, you're spending about 25 bucks. And 25 bucks actually will cover me doing 3 of these. So, and if you don't have a paintbrush, you can go to the dollar store and get one for $1. It really doesn't matter what kind of paintbrush you actually use. Black sand, you can actually use real sand if you don't have it. You should have glue somewhere around your house. Everybody has a bottle of glue somewhere. If not, get that at the dollar store. Use that. You get the real sand in there if you want to, sawdust, and that black paint. Just get a glossier one. You can get that at a dollar store too. Just paint it up once it's dry. Very simple. For about 25 bucks with Hobby Lobby or Michael's coupon, you can do an accurate piece and as many as you really want to. You can really pop out 10 of these if you really want to for 25 bucks. That's a pretty damn good deal. But I hope this helped you guys out. I just want to make this really quick while I'm in the process of getting these done for the Chicago Con. And, oh, and Milliput. Sorry, Milliput runs about $10, about $7 to $10, about 30 bucks, at the end of it. But yeah, I didn't mold this one together like I've done before just because I just didn't want to. And it's not really an accuracy thing with getting these two pieces molded together. It's just a really nice look. But I didn't do it with these ones because I didn't have to. And if you're building chainsaws, you should have a lot of sandpaper sitting around. Trust me, you're gonna need a shit ton of sandpaper. Don't go cheap on it either. Buy some good shit. But hope this helped you guys out. Until next time, you guys stay groovy.